Hello, everybody. I'm Thomas. I'm very pleased to welcome you to this webinar. I'm the CEO of Apply, and today I will be your host, joining with Jérôme, that is just in front of me. Who is our expert in ocean freight, in shipping, and he will tackle this title webinar today. What can we expect in 2025 in the shipping transport? Before beginning the webinar, two simple things. First one is that all the participants, all the people that are registered, and we had more than 600 registrants to it. Thank you for that once again. It's a big achievement. You will all receive an email with the slides that will be presented, and also a document, a link through a document that is called Container Shipping, our free scenario for 2025. It's a webinar, it's a white paper that has been published by Jérôme and the team of Apply at the end of December of last year. So you will receive both the slides and the PDF file. And the second thing is that please ask questions directly on the chat. I have the chat in front of me, and I will try to pick some questions meanwhile discussing with Jérôme to try to highlight some points and some questions that you might have. Okay, let's go. So the agenda for today, very simple. First, we will introduce Apply, who we are, what do we do, and why we are here today with Jérôme to talk about container shipping. We will then directly go on the current states of the shipping market, have a look at the data that we can have at Apply to see what happened in 2024, try to make some highlights, and then go directly to the main topic of this presentation today, our 3 scenarios for 2025, and then ask some questions directly, answer to some questions. You ready, Jérôme?
Hi, everyone.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I think the number are just increasing once again. Thank you very much for your participation to this webinar. To begin with, Apply. Apply is a company that we created 8 years ago now. We are building today application and AI agents that help the industry to optimize, industrialize, something that is very important also in the transport management, to try to automatize what can be automatized and make transportation management more sustainable. We have a lot of tools also that are coming, that existing, but that are coming regarding sustainability. And in a nutshell, Apply, it's a mix between tech addicts. I am someone like geek tech addict, expert in data, and experts in the supply chain that we can have in the transport. And for instance, Jérôme is one of our next expert and the reference in container shipping today. We are pleased to be backed by big customers that we have today. These logos are important for us because this is also data that we can collect from the market, and that helps and give insights on what is happening on the market. The view of Jérôme of his own, all the scenarios that you will hear about, this is the point of view of Jérôme, the point of view of Apply. So for sure, there are certain bias and need to take caution on that. But this is also discussions that we have with partners, clients from the markets. And finally, to end the presentation of Apply and go directly on the main topic here, our tech platform today for ocean freight is mainly 3 blocks. The first one is analytics, where we have data on the long-term, short-term rates, data that are directly coming from contracts, the data that we are collecting from our users, collecting them directly from dashboard, for instance, where users need to have a cockpit to deep dive directly in their buying strategy for ocean freight. And so we are connected to their data, to their TMS, to their ERPs, to collect this data, to make it clean and normalize the data, to then help you via Power BI or another tool directly go into details to this data, and for sure to benchmark it or to compare it with the market and the data that we can collect. And finally, once you have this all this data, it's important to make words and analysis on that. And this is where this kind of webinars, this kind of expertise that we can produce, we can give you also is very important, with sometimes dedicated seminars at the tender moments, at the budget moments, that can be very insightful to understand what is happening on the market and what might come and the different scenarios that will come. So having said that, we are entering directly on what happened in 2024 and what are the scenarios to come. The first view here, it's directly a view from the tool that we can have at Apply. Here we took the main corridor, the corridor Shanghai-Rotterdam. We have the long-term here view, the contract rates that we received from our users, where we have really invoices. And so this is not a big news for all of you, the one that are in the supply chain and the shipping transport for a long time. But it's good to see that once again, where you have the COVID crisis and mainly the post-COVID crisis, where the very high demand and the offer that was a bit blocked, where the rates were completely crazy after a period that was quiet, let's say. Yeah. The market was calm. And then the rates went from $2,000 to $3,000 to $15,000 for certain. Everything is going well. Sorry, I just received an alert. So. Okay, but let's follow. No, I think it's good. Sorry. This is the view here, the post-crisis, where we are the post-COVID crisis, where the rates going completely crazy, the completely fall down of the rate just after. And here we will make a small zoom on the Red Sea part, where we have at the end of November 2023, the Galaxy Leader, the ship that is been taken hostage by the Houthi, and it's the beginning of the crisis of the Red Sea crisis, let's say, where today we have the majority of big ships that are going not anymore via the Suez Canal, but the Good Hope at the south of Africa. Yeah, the Cape of Good Hope. Thank you. And so the increase of trade that we have seen. Do you have a small comment on that, Jérôme?
Yes, of course. First, I would like to come back to the very beginning, maybe to the previous chart. We collect with Apply data since 17. So all the period you can look at before the COVID crisis. On the slide before, I don't know if we can come back to the slide before, Thomas.
Yeah.
Yes, this one. So this very long period. I would like to start with that. This is very long period of time when shipping lines were not really making money. It has been forgotten now nearly by most of the people due to the COVID story, but we are coming from a very long period of time when shipping lines were or not making money or making very little money. I think it is always very important to highlight the topic with that in mind. We are coming from a very long situation when carriers were not making money, so it's important. And then, of course, you see this big huge profits due to the COVID crisis.
Jérôme, I will stop you just 2 minutes. Yes. Can you take your chair and come close to me because we have an issue with your camera? Sorry, guys. It's live. It's not recorded, so that everybody can see.
No problem. So then back to the COVID crisis, and then the dive after the COVID crisis when the situation has normalized, and then, as Thomas said, the issue with the Galaxy Leader and the issue with the Red Sea crisis. the Galaxy leader being the first big change, key milestone change in terms of change of dynamics on the market, because of course, going through the Cape for a mass of vessels for safety issues, for safety reasons, has been very changing completely the data. What is interesting to see when we are talking about 2024, it is that during the autumn, we have seen a market change at the end of nearly, it was in October, with an attempt of the shipping lines in a decreasing market, because the demand was quite slack and the capacity was quite high. So back in October 24, there was a reaction, and there was a lot of GRIs coming from the shipping lines in order to try to make a bridge on the market, a pricing bridge on the market between to upgrade the freight rates in order to bridge the situation with the Chinese New Year. Chinese New Year started 5 days ago. And as we all know, before the Chinese New Year, there is a rush period in order to get cargo on board before the Chinese companies go on vacation, and usually for 2 weeks. And it has been very well organized, I may say, among shipping lines in order to get just the capacity to face the high demand of the period. Plus, we have also to say that this demand was quite high due to the fact that there was this threat from the Trump administration coming, preparing about higher taxes in entry. So everything was there from the demand side to create the cargo rush, and from the other side, the carrier get organized in order to really monitor closely the capacity. And it had an impact on rates, inflating rates at the end of the year on 2024. And what we see between 2024 and 2025, what we can record now, it is that this bridge has been very positive for the shipping lines, but we are now entering in a situation when the rates are decreasing because this Chinese New Year is now there. There is not a lot of demand, and the capacity is coming. So even if we remain in a global scenario today with a Cape of Good Hope route as a global rule, there is still so many capacity to come that effectively change the dynamics for 2025.
Thank you, Jérôme. We've seen also in the chat that you put that the microphone was not good for Jérôme, so I hope it's better right now. If you can just post something to say, okay, that's great, thank you, we will follow up like that. Please ask questions or ask directly on the chat. I've seen that some people are raising their hand. It will be better for everyone, because so that the sound will be good also for everyone. Thank you. Let's follow up. So this was the 2024 part with the Red Sea situation that we talk about. We took this slide from a previous webinar, but just to remind to everyone, and it's the highlights that Jérôme just gave to us. Now we will have two slides, one on the inflationary factors and the other one on the decrease in the impact on the decrease in price. This is directly taken from the container shipping white paper that we published at the end of the year, the December 2024. I will let you, Jérôme, go through these slides, and I will try to ask questions myself also. But please, if you have, feel free in the chats.
Thank you, Thomas. Yes. So two slides. One going up, inflationary factors, and the other slide regarding deflationary factors. The issue there is to try to find some elements that may impact the market. And of course, you will have on case-by-case basis and from an individualistic point of view, have to mitigate one or other, taking in account your own problemacy and your own constraints in your day-to-day job. But these are for real, and this is to stay, I may say. It is why we wanted to put these markers on the table. Economic environment, market concentration, particularly from the big freight forwarder side. I have to remind to everyone that when we are talking about container business, nearly 50% of the cargo on board the container vessels is driven by forwarders, nearly 50% worldwide. So what happened today in the forwarder market, talking about sea transportation, it is a huge concentration between five. We very often talk about the top 5 in terms of IFF, International Freight Forwarders. And of course, now the concentration is very important in this respect and offering a lot of buying power to these big IFF. Everybody is very often talking about concentration amongst the carriers and finger pointing the carriers. But we have to be careful and we have not to overshadow the power and the concentration on the market of the big forwarders. It is very important too, and it is happening. So I take it as a key driver. Inflationary factors to shippers, a general increase in port tariff to catch up with inflation. Yes, definitely. We are talking about pilot. We are talking about stevedoring. We are talking about tugs. We are talking about, all these issues with port jobs, which are driving prices a bit higher every year. And particularly, the inflation has been moderate for the past 2 or 3 years, just after the COVID. And now we see on this kind of charges some real increase. So yes, to get containers to transit through a port costs clearly more money in US dollars than it was the case just before the COVID. We are talking about 20 to 30 US dollars per container. Geopolitical risk management, yes, in the Middle East, in Asia, and through the Ukraine war. So it is just to remind that there is a lot of uncertainty, that there is very often some new crisis coming and all crises that are still burning. And we have to get used with this new world. And of course, it has an impact of insurance rates. And so here also we have clearly an inflationary factor, plus the ton-mile indicator. Of course, due to the constraint with the Red Sea, most of the cargo had to move more. And it has a cost, and not talking about environmental cost, of course. Russia-Ukraine war, even if it has been limited in terms of impact on the container business within the area, it clearly created some inflation, particularly also on the insurance topic.
So just a point on this. We receive a question from Vincent regarding geopolitical risk and management. The results of the US elections and the Trump's behavior regarding trade war and the increase of possible increased cost through certain countries will be tackled just after on the scenarios of next year. So this is just to give you the effect.
Yeah.
Safety and security issue, rising cyber risks. Clearly, there is more money to spend in how to protect more the data. It comes with a cost. So it has to be bear in mind, and it has to be taken into consideration. Transport of lithium-ion batteries, you may say, what's the point? Yes, the point, because this issue is not solved. And that means that if this issue is not solved, and as it is most likely that more casualties will coming, it means that insurance will also, on this topic, and due to this fact, be more expensive because the risk will be widespread to all the cargo, even the cargo which is not related with EV promotion and bigger businesses. So it will have an impact through the insurance policies. Drug trafficking, it is a real plague in the container business. And of course, the shipping lines will have to be, how I may say that. We have seen that to hide behind a said to contain wording declaration in a bill of lading is not enough. Clearly is not enough. So it means that all the shipping lines, and they are doing it, have to go deeper, even if they can't check 100% of what they carry, what they all carry. It's not possible under FCL mode. Due to the massification, it doesn't make sense even to think about it. But in the meantime, it is clear that shipping lines will have to spend more money in order to better check what they carry. Environmental issues, of course, it has been the big loser. Environment has been the loser of 2024 in shipping. And it's very sad, to be honest, because I am really deeply convinced that a lot of players made huge efforts and on the long run in order to have a better situation in terms of environment. And the Red Sea crisis was a game changer in this respect because it made compulsory to have a longer route, and it had a very detrimental impact on the environment. So, of course, the environment issues will have an impact on freight rates. Exposure of port areas to extreme weather events. This is a climate issue. When I wrote that, it was before the LA fires. Hopefully, so far, Long Beach and LA port infrastructure have not been threatened by the fires in California. But look back in the mirror, quickly talk about Valencia, talk about Shanghai. We have seen in recent months that some extreme severe weather condition on the shore can impact a lot the activity. And at the end of the day, all that someone will have to pay for that. And because it means that extra cost. And there is no other option than to pass this extra cost to the cargo by a way or another. So at the end of the day, it will have a cost, and we have also to identify that as a inflationary factor. Public policies promoting a shift to alternative models. This is interesting, and it is mostly talking about the shore side of operation and activity. It is mostly related to moving containers, not less on trucks and more on alternative mode, rail and barge, whenever it is possible. We all know that it is more cost effective today to use the road in 95% of the cases. Okay, but maybe we will have to take some political measures at state levels in order to see the things change in the near future. So that means maybe a more pushy more pushy state approach in order to put some containers on the rail and on the barge whenever it is possible, and this will come with a cost, of course, also. So to wrap up with this slide very quickly, all in all, if we take all these factors, we may have a potential increase of $500 per container, just to take into account the cost of the issues we were just talking about. And if you had what is taken now for more or less for granted as a lump sum compared to when you take the Cape of Good Hope route compared to the Red Sea route and the Suez Canal route of $1,000 per in addition for this voyage, for a voyage through the Cape. So that's at the end of the day, yes, $1,500 bonus, I may say.
Yeah, so this is the increase in price, and with all the factors that can have an impact directly on that. We'll just now have a look at the factors that can have a downward increase, downward effect on the prices. And after these slides, we will go on the three main scenarios that we oversee for the 2025 and try to explain what are these scenarios.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. So what we have seen after the COVID, we have seen some shipping lines with full pockets, full of cash. And what did they do? They done all the same. They went all to the shipyards to get some new buildings and some new vessel built, taking also in account all the new environmental challenges and trying to have some greener vessels. And so it takes between 2 and 3 years to get a vessel built. So these vessels are coming now for most of the big players of the top 10, and even we may say top 15 in the shipping lines. And these vessels are coming. They started to arrive on the market in 2024, and now more and more are coming. And it is the focus, and it is a big problem. Some very ULCS, some 24,000 Ts are coming, some more. And the issue it is that on east-west route today, there is enough 24,000 TEUs to cope with the market, even through the Cape of Good Hope route. So there is clearly a wall of overcapacity in front of us. And the issue with the vessel, it is you can't hide it. Of course, you can put it in an anchor, but you can't hide it in the garden of your neighbor. The vessels have to go somewhere, and it will be very difficult to hide all this capacity coming.
This wall is not hit now. We are not in the wall because of Good Hope.
Exactly.
Cap and the route is new routes, but
exactly
if things are changing, they can have a big impact.
Of course. And second point, it is the massive orders from MSC. This is no surprise. This has been published for years now, but just after the COVID crisis, MSC, and before leaving the M2 and before leaving Maersk to go as a lonely boy and as a leader in the market. In the meantime, they were representing 20 and more than 20% of the capacity of the market. They were still speeding and speeding and speeding in hoovering the market in terms of chartered vessels, in terms also of buying second-hand vessels, and in the new buildings. So the capacity that MSC is putting on the table for the 2 years to come is unbelievable. And the other point related to this capacity, which is also a deflationary factor. It is that most of the fleet, not all the fleet, to be honest, not all the fleet, but most of the fleet of MSC, and particularly if we compare the fleet of MSC, the active fleet of MSC, with the active fleet of other carriers, is scrubber equipped. Scrubber equipped means that it allows them to burn the El Cheapo fuel, the cheap fuel. But the trouble being that the cheap fuel may also have some environmental impact, aside the fact that it is cheap, because it is a very, very raw product to burn. And but it creates for MSC a very competitive price. That means that when in case of rate war, they can go lower and still make a profit than most of their competitors. And it is something we will follow. Then the new setup for the alliances. What is surprising with that, it is that, so it's a big change. It didn't happen in the previous years. It is the first effect also within the cyber exemption context. So it is very interesting to see that all the alliances launch their new setup in the meantime. Of course, for competition issues between them, they wanted that the period of time should be as short as possible in order for them to show to the market what they have in mind and what they offer. And it is coming this month. It is coming at the end of this month. It will be very challenging because we have seen that there is some very different models between Gemini with a hub and smoke model, between CMA and MSC, who are more, and people from, and also, of course, the other members of Ocean Alliance, who are more in a direct port-to-port approach. So it will be clearly very interesting to challenge this different services approach to the market and to assess the performance of all the participants. So giving these new alliances products through the shaker, of course, will create more competition. And of course, will create some opportunity for one or another to try to increase its market share. This is clearly a deflationary factor to me. The Federal Maritime Commission in the US support pluralism and competitive conditions? Yes. And even more now under the Trump administration, with I wrote that before the Trump statement, President Trump statement was made regarding the fact that they want clearly that shipping lines via the US offer to the US shippers the competitive service. That means ship rate, clearly. So Lou Sola, the new appointed boss by the Trump administration at the FMC, will clearly have a policy who will try to drive the freight rates downwards for the shipping lines. Why? Because true or false, to me false, but to me, high freight rate prices are nothing to do with the floor inflation. But it is common practice to use it as a psychological lever in order to try to make believe to Mr. So-and-so or to Mrs. So-and-so that there is a direct relation between impact of freight rates and floor prices. To me, it's far more complicated than that, but this explanation works so well that it has to be taken into consideration. Trade war, yes. So it is a personal interpretation. Some people may not agree with that, and I would understand very well. But to me, a trade war and the impact of the trade war is a deflationary factor. And we have seen it not a long time ago in 2019 on the transatlantic business, on the transatlantic trade, when under the first Trump administration, we have seen that when the tariffs were increasing for Chinese goods entering into the US, in the meantime, Trans-Pacific freight rates were declining. So there is an idea about a compensation with lower freight rates when the tax go higher. It's not very logical, but you can see it quite often on the market.
And this is quite counterintuitive regarding also what we have seen at the end of the year, where certain shippers expecting the increase of taxes from Trump were trying to buy a lot and try to order some vessels, but it was very at a specific moment and in a short moment, so a short increase. And then what you're saying is that on the long run, a trade war, what we have seen in the past, should have a downward
impact on freight rates. Yeah. Yes. Geopolitical context also, that's the big question. It is in the heart of the discussion of today. It is Suez or not Suez, of course. Red Sea or not Red Sea. You have seen in the latest news that there is a Chinese vessel, a small container vessel that is in fire in the Red Sea. At this stage, we don't really know if it was caused by the Houthis or if it was a problem of a fire that happened on board. But definitely it will be the big question. So, allez, let's go to the scenario. So the scenario, which is interesting because the scenario were written beginning of December.
So we will do in two ways. We will directly go through the scenarios after been written directly in December, and then we will try to adjust with the current view and the last statements that we have here.
If you like, Thomas, no problem with that. So clearly, my scenario one was a clear domination of the market in terms of rates by MSC. That is to say that now MSC is so powerful alone on the market that it can give the market direction upward or downward. And that's the reason why I was talking about 25 being the year of the roller coaster, because as MSC has the power to dictate the pricing policy of the shipping lines, clearly, the probability that the other shipping lines will follow the pricing policy of MSC is, to me, very, very high. It's a very high probability to me. And why I am talking about a roller coaster? Because when you have the key of the car, as it is the case today for MSC, you can play with the market, and you can play downward and you can play upward. You can play downward to kill your competitors and to drag more market shares, and you can play upward when you have enough market shares, when you have reached your targets, and when you want a bit of money back. Never forget also that MSC doesn't publish its results. And it's a strength for them also in this market, in order they don't have to show to the market the impact of their policy in their figures.
And this scenario is still relevant today.
To me, yes. To me, yes, clearly, because they have the cheapest operating cost. We explained a little bit by far the story about the scrubber and the story about the fuel, but it is also their integrated approach using their terminals and the terminals they control, which and also it is also because they are very good. Bear in mind that for the youngest in the band today, MSC get the biggest organic growth on the shipping line market for the past 20 years because they have been very, very good in doing what they are doing. they have been very good in controlling the cost and in driving the cost very low and the lowest of the market. So, of course, it gives them the possibility to get bigger market shares whenever they want. And most of their strategy is backed by the big forwarders who were talking a little bit before at the beginning of this webinar. I will not give the name, but you know all of them, the big five, particularly with what happened in 24 in Germany with a new concentration between Scandinavia and Germany. So it makes things, I will not say easy, but quite obvious. And of course, yes, the roller coaster to me will be the scenario. Scenario two, in order to mitigate a little bit this hegemony in the scenario one, it is the post-CBER exemptions. Post-CBER exemptions means that now shipping is under the umbrella, under the scope of common law in terms of competition. Then that is to say also that from a European perspective, the end of the CBER exemptions and to enter for the shipping line into a common competition law means that the market shares allowed slightly decreasing per brand, per operator. And now, when you are reaching 20% of a market share on a trade, on a market, this can be cautiously looked after by the authorities. In Europe, in USA, we had a word about the FMC changes, and maybe there is a very high possibility that the FMC will be looking after very closely the size of the competition, of the competitors to their market. And in China also, for time being, the MOFCOM said very little about this new setup, but sooner or later, they will have their word also in that. So what I wanted to say it is that regulations that were very silent last year and the year before may come back in the USA, in Europe, and maybe also in China in order to finger point a company or another, asking explanations regarding the real market shares on TA, on Asia, Europe, and to control that and to have a word in that.
And this will be the case even more if the scenario one is active. If we see a domination and the market that is driven by one or two players, and that the other one are following.
Exactly. And to give additional arguments to this scenario too, we can go back to what we have seen in October on the market. You remember back in October, it was a bit surprising for a lot of people. MSC upgraded their FAK rates quite massively and quite brutally. And the other shipping lines followed globally this policy. So, of course, it happened once, okay. If it happened more often, it may be finger pointed by the authorities. Then last scenario, the US are back. The empire is back. The empire strikes back. Yes, we are in the middle of a midst. It's quite difficult to keep calm in this situation because we hear a lot of things. January was clearly the month of all the big announcements, Panama, Canada, Groenland, always with a shipping impact behind the scene. You will see with Apply, we prepare to use some analysis on that. But basically, what we have seen, and it is a very interesting topic because it is a topic which is supported, backed by Democrats and by the Republicans, both sides. Taking in account what? Maybe between brackets, we have offshored too much of our merchant marine. Basically, all that started under the Bush-Father administration when they decided to offshore all the maritime aspects, merchant maritime aspects to foreign countries because it was not money-making, basically, and because it was not a threat. But in 25, 30 years, things have changed a lot at worldwide level. And today, the US realize how weak they are in terms of fleet control, in terms of merchant marine, with a control of less than 1% of the worldwide merchant marine. And this doesn't fit with the wording of the Trump policy. That doesn't fit at all. So it means that the US will, by a way or another, re-enter into a total revamping of their approach of merchant marine for the business and also to support the US Navy and to back the US Navy. Because war at sea has changed a lot. We have seen it with the Russian war. We have seen it with the Mokba sunk. It rang the bell to a lot of people in the maritime academies. So there is clearly now a clear impact of merchant marine and potential war scenario and Navy scenario. These two things are related now. And talking about the US, who is looking after more control, more sovereignty, you can't do it without a merchant marine, a strong merchant marine. So, of course, it will be a long-term plan, and I think it will be a 10-year plan. But I'm quite sure that this year, the US will launch a very serious long-term plan in order to re-enter into the game of the merchant marine. Particularly, I will finish with that. Another argument which go in this direction, it is the oil and gas. When you say drill, baby, drill, and if you can't export the oil, you have a problem. It doesn't make sense if US and Canada and US want to export more oil and gas products to let foreign countries take all the juice of this new business out of their boundaries. So it is, of course, obvious to me that they will need also to integrate the value if producing more oil and refinery products will mean also more an interest for them to control more transportation and more vessels, even if we are talking about oil and gas, which is not directly related with our container topic of today.
Given that, so this was the order of the three scenarios that we decided at the end of 2024. Do you see a reverse order? So the first one was MSC domination.
Yeah. I would keep with 1 month and a half flag. I would keep these three topics, but I would reverse the order. I will put the number 3 in number 1, definitely.
Given the different speech of Mr. Trump, President Trump and his administration, mainly.
Yes, and the lack of reaction of the European community. For time being, very, very little to hear from Brussels regarding Groenland. Very little to hear from Brussels regarding Canada and Panama. Of course, for Canada, I can understand. Canadian people very often to laugh about their own money, their own currency. They talk about the Canadian peso. It is not very... Well, they talk about the Canadian peso, and if tomorrow you say to the Canadian community, your Canadian dollar will be aligned on the US dollar, I think a lot of Canadian people will vote for being American. So it is very serious what is happening, very serious. It's not a laugh. And for Groenland, for time being, I think that the US are progressing very seriously on this topic. And on Panama, they are putting the pressure. You can see the comments of Commissioner Sola at the head of the FMC on CNBC yesterday. He made it very clear. So we are entering once again for a new year again in a very tough world.
And this, thank you, Jérôme, for all this.
My pleasure.
All this descriptive analysis of what might happen in 2025. We will go directly in the Q&A session. We do have some questions. We have 5 to 10 minutes. Thank you all for being here. First part is yes, we will share the slides. We will share also the document to all the participants and the ones that are that registered. We have a first question here. Will freight prices remain stable or will be like in the past year, meaning roller coaster? I think we have the answer on past slides. I think, and you ended with that, this year will be rock and roll.
Yes, I may say yes, to be a bit more specific, if I may. I think that the probability is that we keep the same price frame, average price frame as this year is taken for granted. It can be only lower. It can only be lower, even if we remain in a Cape of Good Hope route because of the capacity, the wall of capacity coming. But freights will be driven even lower if we go through Suez quite easily. So budget-wise, 2025, there is a very high probability that freight rates will be globally decreasing, but they may be decreasing very quickly if the Red Sea reopen quickly.
And regarding the Red Sea, we have a question from Vincent. How long will it take for ocean carriers to reroute to Red Sea?
Okay, so if we take into consideration, for example, that the Red Sea is safe again, that the Red Sea is not considered anymore as a war zone by the United Nations or by the OMI and by the insurance company. That's a lot of reasons, a lot of criteria to be obtained. But if these 3 criteria are obtained, cheap insurance, no more war, no more risk, no more missiles, no more suicide boats, no more whatsoever, remote boats, sorry. It can take, let's say, 2 months in order to have a setup that will go back to between brackets to normal through the Suez Canal. Yes, I think in order to reroute everything between 2 and 3 months.
Thank you, Jérôme. We have also we have 3 questions regarding the Gemini project. The first one is, do you think the Gemini Corporation will be efficient? And the other one is, do you think that others will follow this approach of main port and then feeding other smaller ports?
Yeah, to be honest, it's a 50-50 game for me at this stage, because we have not seen yet what will rehappen and what will be the impact. But between a statement saying, if I have some other vessels, very big vessels, but who will be fully metronomized, who will work on fixed windows with a lot of regularity, with very little port of calls, So very little opportunities to be late. And a kind of very nice feedering approach, very clever feedering approach with some small organic network with a lot of capillarity, with some dedicated feeder vessels that will respect a time frame, even if they're not full. I think it may compete with direct services. I would go back to MSC again. 8-10 years ago. MSC also built its growth on transshipments and transshipping a lot. And sometimes wasting some time in transshipping a lot. That's the reason why in the old days they were finger pointed for poor services, which is no more the case today. But they made their growth also on that. And in some cases, some transshipment cargo was going faster than some direct cargo. So to answer to your question, I will say we will see that in June. And in June, we will have enough data to make a very good assessment about what is the winning scenario. But from a standing point, as we don't know, I want Gemini to show to the market what they can do. And I mean, they are professionals, huh? So don't underestimate them.
I will just say also that we have a paper on the Gemini organization that has been published some months ago, so you can find it also on the website, and we will publish a new one, as Jérôme was talking about. Now I will try to wrap up with 2 or 3 questions that I can answer directly. Yes, we do have data also on air freight. Sorry, but this is not the topic right now. So the comment was, would you like to comment the deflationary or inflationary factors in air freights? Yes, for sure, we can do it also, but it needs a full webinar or at least 10 to 20 minutes. So unfortunately, we can't do it right now, but we have also experts in air freight, and we do publish on air freight. So feel free to go and have a look on our websites. We have also a lot of questions regarding specific corridors, Asia, Europe to Middle East, transatlantic. We cannot cover everything here, and this is also our work and the work of Jérôme to tackle specific parts on the request of certain customers and certain partners. So feel free to contact us if you have specific questions, and we can take the time to have a specific look on that. And I will try to see if there are others questions. The questions regarding the Trump, this is done. Thank you. We have a last one from Valérie, maybe. Do you monitor the increase of detention and demurrage or post-fees, post-COVID? So we've seen indeed post-COVID.
Yeah.
Detention and demurrage was a big topic during the COVID crisis and post-COVID crisis, because the prices that were not something very monitored by the market. The market is looking at FAK. Now we are looking also at emerging charges emergency charges with all that happened in the Red Sea. Detention and demurrage was a big thing during the COVID or post-COVID. It's no longer the case. It's still the case.
Well, it is less an issue because, particularly in Europe, because as there is not a huge volumes to take into consideration, there is less port congestion. So less port congestion means more fluidity and more options for the shippers to get rid about demurrage and detention. So it is less a topic because, as it was, you are right, Thomas, when the COVID period or the post-COVID period, when it was really a shame because the shippers, even if they were willing to withdraw the cargo, to take delivery of the cargo, they couldn't for a reason or another, and they couldn't make it, but they were charged for it. So it was not fair, clearly. And And there has been some fine for that. And look at the FMC. With the FMC in the US, there are still some cases going on regarding this topic. So it had been less a topic because there was less pressure from the operational side. But clearly, there is a close relation between congestion and DND. In the meantime, everything has understood that it is quite normal that there is some DND charges. The DND charges corresponds to real costs. So someone has to pay for them. The issue, it is more the moderation of the invoicing of the DND and the price. I think that today, to answer more to your question, more specifically to your question, things calm down. And thanks to better organizations, most of the cargo minimized DND expansion to acceptable levels. So I think that is today's situation, and that's the reason why we hear a little bit less about complaints about DND. And it is interesting to notice in this respect that the shippers organizations, representative organizations, or the forwarder representative organization who have been always fighting against the shipping lines in order to push them to minimize these DND costs and the unfair practices that may have happened. Today, you hear them less on the scene, on the public scene regarding this topic, which is to me a sign that there is clearly less pressure. But you are right, Valérie. It is something to monitor. It is something to look after. And it is a very important column in your Excel sheets regarding, between brackets, hidden costs. My advice, talking about DND, it is in your Excel sheets to have a lump sum. For a small lump sum. Take $20-30 per box. Like that, you will have it in your budget. It will be no surprise budget.
Thank you, Jérôme. We've reached the end of the webinar. There are some questions left. We'll try to answer them, or please contact us directly if you want. Please, you can follow us also, Jérôme and myself, on LinkedIn. We try to publish as often as possible insights regarding shipping and all mode of transportation. Once again, thank you very much. We are about 300 to be connected. Thank you for that, and thank you for your questions. Let's see each other once again, I think in the middle of the year, because we'll have new scenarios and we'll try to adjust these scenarios. Mid-year, June, July. So let's see each other again at these dates. You will receive the video, the recording of the webinar, the slides, and the white paper directly in your email. Thanks again, and have a great day. Bye, everyone.